Hey everybody. Um, it's been a worst month I've had since a long time. I believe I was triggered by my user, Gray Matter. Anyways, I spent the month researching borderline because I saw, obviously, I was incredibly triggered like I hadn't been in a long time. So I watched myself, and I saw that I was splitting on Gray Matter. On my subscriber basically said they knew my mother, so I freaked out. I thought it was a flying monkey. I still don't know if it's a flying monkey. If you're a flying monkey, I'll never know. I can't know. And that's the essence of why I mistrust. So I was realizing, going back and forth, I should trust them. I should not trust this subscriber. It is my mother. It's not my mother. Back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, wow, this is great. I can watch and see what's going on with my borderline. Essentially, what it comes down to is this: and it's the same thing with girlfriends. I can trust them. I can't trust them. My jobs, I can trust them. I can't trust them. My computer, my apartment, I like it. I don't like it. Everything. So I watched, and I realized what was happening was that as long as the information, the data is in my conscious, my working memory, then I can trust. Then I'm fine. But because I don't have trust built in, because had I trusted my parents, I'd be dead like my brother. Had I trusted my parents, I would have been dead as a child. They told me to do so many stupid, unsafe things that they wanted me dead. Really, if you knew my story, you'd realize they did not want children at all. And had we died, that would have been perfect for them. They would have gotten the money, and they wouldn't have had kids. So, so I never trusted. I never trusted my father. I never trusted this bit. He molested me. Okay, he was molesting me in my bed, and then my mother would come home and he'd jump out and act like everything was all nice and thought that that was going to work. I didn't really know what was going on. I was too young, but I never trusted him. And I guess I never trusted my mother either because she always told me to go with my father. Ask your father, dear. So it's just garbage. So I don't have trust. So I was realizing as long as I have the information in front of me that I should trust, I was looking at Gray Matter's comments, looking at Gray Matter's, just generally looking at they've been around a long time. And then even the data includes, even if they are flying monkey, who cares? I can deal with it. But then as soon as that data is out of my mind, I forget it and move on to something else, the mistrust comes back. So I said, this is very cool. I said, this is very cool. Basically, I figured out I have an external locus of control when it comes to trust. I cannot trust anything. It has to be proving that it can trust. It has to be proof, which is probably why I did not look at my comments for a long time, because I knew that would trigger me. Anyways, so I started to watch Otto Kernberg and a lot of lectures. I moved away from, the general YouTube popular stuff, and I watched, intense multiple hour lectures. Like one lecture is 4 hours on narcissism and borderline and antisocial. And here's what it comes down to, folks. I'm able finally to nutshell the entire thing, according to Otto Kernberg. And it's a lot more fundamental than I thought. I always thought that just the abuse itself caused my borderline. According to Kernberger, here's what happens to us. Here's how we become borderlines, narcissists, or antisocials. When we're young, as children, all of us, we are born to our parents, and at the beginning, the first year of life, the only thing that exists in our life really is our parents. We don't even identify ourselves yet as being separate from our parents. Now, at the beginning, our parents are seen as persecutory because all they're doing to us is telling us no, don't do that, don't put that in your mouth, don't eat this, please stop crying, whatever it is, right? You're a baby, you're being told no, 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 so you identify as all bad. At the same time, okay, that's your self-image. So you start off all bad. But as time goes on, if you have normal parents, you slowly see that they admit, yeah, as you get older, between 0 and 3, and then 3 to 7. It doesn't really end at 3. But around to 3, you're beginning to see, okay, I'm bad, but they also make mistakes. And they treat me good. So you slowly see yourself as both good and bad, and it integrates into a single personality. If you have narcissistic parents, psychopathic parents, crappy parents, just basically negligent parents, or even just emotionally immature parents, see, it does not have to be necessarily they're evil, well, they never really admit to their children who they are. So the parent is always perfect, which means the child is always bad. And that's how we're developed. So a borderline, a narcissist, and a psychopath come into life as a child, believing on some level they're all bad. That all bad is represented by basically a defensive, narcissistic, violent, aggressive stance, basically, right? The opposite, which is when you're seeing yourself as good, is represented by the libidinal, sorry, I didn't drink anything this morning, libidinal drive. The drive to get married, to love, to have children, to share. Pro-social. So when you feel persecuted, all bad, you are antisocial. When you feel good, love, libidinal, you're pro-social. Now, the borderline. So the borderline, the narcissist, and the psychopath, they have what's called a diffused personality, right? Which basically means our anger, our violence, our aggressiveness is not fused with our normal niceness. It's two different personalities, if you want. It's just two different modes. They're not fused. What could I tell you? I mean, it's like, it's not good, okay? At the fundamental core, we're all good or all bad. Okay. So a borderline. Okay, let me get to the next step. The next step is when, as a child, you're watching your parents interact with the world. And that's how you develop a superego. So you develop your self-concept from your parents interacting with you. It starts off as persecutory. It should end up as evenly balanced. So you end up with a strong personality that's united. When you watch your parents interact, you develop a superego. So if your parents are narcissistic, you don't see really the way they're treating the world in a bad way, right? They act perfect to the world. So now we're left really screwed up, because on one side we feel all bad. On the other side, we've developed a very strong superego. So we feel there's this conflict between the way our parents treated the world and the way our parents treated us. You see? That is called borderline organization, according to Otto Kernberg. Borderline organization is exactly what a borderline is, and that's all. That's it. We're constantly under conflict, inner conflict, and we express it, and we know it, and we're aware of it, that there's this mess of our head going on. The narcissist was aware of that as well, but for some reason that I have not figured out, or I don't think Otto Kernberg just explained it, they he did. When you're persecuted, even as an adult, and I experienced this is the way I was able to figure this out for myself, the way I can describe it, because I wasn't understanding, how do you develop a persecutory false image? That's what a narcissist does. Okay, I'm gonna jump to it right away. So the borderline is crazy. It's what you see here. I am a pure borderline, right? You're never gonna see a narcissist on the internet, because a narcissist has a false image. Okay, so why would a narcissist ever come onto he can't. He's not gonna come on, or she, to a camera, because They live in a false image in which that borderline structure is ignored. It's repressed. Where does this false image come from? It comes from the persecution, and I believe in immaturity, or just a lot of persecution, more than perhaps a borderline got. An example of how a false image would come up. I was outside a few days ago, and this black guy threatened me. Or sorry, he didn't threaten me, but he was looking for trouble. I ignored him and walked away. But I started to have these fantasies of, my God, I wish I kind of had a gun hiding there. And then I said, what do you want, buddy? And as soon as he gave me attitude, I'd blow him in his fucking kneecaps. But then I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. But that's how the false image is developed as a child. You are 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not when you're an infant. When you're an infant, you become a borderline. But then as you get older, if you become narcissistic, you look around and you realize the persecution. Let's say all the kids call you ugly. It doesn't have to be your mom calls you ugly. You start to dream about being beautiful. That's your false image. As a child, as an adult, you'll grow into being all you want to be is a supermodel or a stripper, perhaps, because you can't be a supermodel. It's not realistic. So in the case of a female narcissist, she'll become a stripper as a defense mechanism against being called ugly, against that borderline upset when you get called ugly, because normally if she got called ugly, she'd go crazy and fight and look bad. So she develops this false image of being a stripper, and in her mind she says this stripper is beautiful. And she walks around life living in this mindset. She is beautiful. Just like I might have had a gun, or a lot of kids have guns, and they live in this mindset, this narcissistic mindset, that they're strong. They're tough. The stripper's not beautiful. It's only because she's half naked. The little kid with the gun is not tough. It's only because he has a gun and can pull a trigger. That's it. So, narcissistic defenses, narcissists they have a false image over their borderline structure. That's the problem with a narcissist. That was my mother and father's problem. Not that they were sick. If my parents would have admitted they have all these problems, I wouldn't be here today. I have nothing to drink in the whole house. Anyways, I'm going to end it here. Oh, so that's a problem with a narcissist. You know you're dealing with a narcissist if they have a false image, if they're pretending they're something that they aren't. And that's why they're much more dangerous, because you're not even dealing with the real person, with a borderline like me. You're talking to me. If you're fighting with your borderline girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, or wife, at least you're dealing with them. Hold on. With a narcissist, you're dealing with a confabulated self. And that's why when my mother was brought up, I was like, I don't even want to go there, because we're not talking about a person. We're not talking about a mother. We're not talking about my mother. One person knows my mother one way, another person knows my mother a completely different way. So if anyone the rest of my life is going to say, I want to talk to you about your mother, I'm going to get angry. Because I'm going to say, what the fuck are you talking about? Who? What? What mother? What person are you talking about? You are talking about a confabulated fucking image. Get it out of here. I don't want to deal with it. And that's why I really do like borderlines. I met my borderline friend yesterday. She insulted me. She always hurts me because she goes from positive to negative. She has no control over her affect. So it's upsetting, but I still like her because it's her. It's her. She's not pretending she's something else. And that's why the narcissist is just so despicably difficult to deal with. Because when a borderline is fighting with you or arguing with you or trying to get better or trying to, whatever they're trying to do, they're being honest. And when they go into defensive mode, they become angry and violent and aggressive. But they're still themselves, okay? A narcissist, when they get defensive, angry and defensive, well, then they're going to switch back into their, well, I'm just going to go to the gym and work out with all the guys who are real men. Or, well, I'm going to see the girls because they understand. You know what I mean? They're going to put themselves up on this level. You don't need that. That's just so immature. And that's what I think because I have those narcissistic fantasies. I've had it my whole life. But I never believed in them, and I never nurtured any because it's immature. Even when I was making a lot of money in my internet days, in my 20s, and I was basically a rich kid, I never bought a nice car or bought a nice apartment. And that might be because I was treated as the black sheep. Because what the narcissist came, actually, I'm going to fill a little more in. I'm remembering what else he said. The narcissist has no room for anything but perfection. And it might be that they are the golden child. Okay? So they have this diffused personality, and on top of it, the expectation that they're going to be good. So they have to create this false image to pretend they're good and work to protect that false image because their super ego is telling them that. The narcissist does have a super ego. I think we all know that. It's telling them they have to be perfect. And that's why they can hurt people. They don't have empathy. Their super ego talks to themselves about themselves. But at least they have it. When it comes to the antisocial, and Otto Kernberg says, when it comes to the antisocial, there is no chance. He says you can give them therapy, fine. Oh, can I tell you something, by the way? When you give a narcissist therapy and they react, Otto Kernberg says they become a borderline. They become a borderline first before they can ever get healed, because underneath that narcissistic shell is a borderline. So that's why I always said I'm not a narcissist. I don't manipulate people. I don't lie to people. But I can also see I have a narcissistic traits sometimes. I'm thinking, yeah, because if I don't have a false image to protect, well, that's a completely different story. All right, call me narcissistic. I don't care. As long as you're not talking about a guy who's lying about who he is, as long as you're not talking about a fucking loser who's pretending he's something he's not, or that he's wealthier, or that he's better looking or smarter, or anything like that. So I'm okay with that. It's just a natural defense. It's a natural reaction. Because it's natural to defend yourself. It's not natural to defend this idealized image of yourself that doesn't even exist. The antisocial. The antisocial, just like a borderline, just like a narcissist, has a personality that operates at a quote-unquote borderline level, which basically means it's diffused. Their anger and their libidinal drives, just like the narcissist, just like the borderlines, it's not fused into one. Just like a narcissist, most of the time they'll have the false image. But the worst thing about them is they never integrated, they never internalized their parents interacting with the world. So they have no super ego. And that's why Kernberg says, you can't reach them. You cannot reach them. They have a good part of their personality, and they have a bad part of their personality. But there's no overlaying, and they have a false image, but that false image is taking place of the superego. The superego just does not exist. So they don't even see it, you see. They're not really even aware that they're lying. They think everyone lies because they think no one has a superego. So I was, in retrospect, thinking about my family, and I'm sure about it. My father's, he's antisocial. He has no superego. My mother, 100% narcissist. My brother and I, complete borderlines. My ex-girlfriend, I don't know her well enough. I would put her as a psychopath. I didn't see any evidence of a superego. But there might have been one. I did not know her well enough. I did not know her from any other perspective other than her and me directly. So even her I would not try to diagnose. But I know my mother's a narcissist because... Oh, another thing that we have to get out of the way here is that a psychopath does not have antisocial personality. A psychopath or antisocial does not have narcissistic personality disorder necessarily. They are just narcissists necessarily. The narcissistic personality disorder is the false image on top. Most psychopaths have it, but he also said some do not. Um, my father pretended he was a businessman when he was really just a pedophile sitting in jail. He pretended he was a businessman traveling around the world making money. He's a pedophile sitting in jail or molesting kids out of his car. That's a false image. My mother pretending she was a successful, wealthy, Jewish, married, happily, good family woman when she's really a stripper doing cocaine with, you know, the dregs in crack houses. False image. My brother was a comedian. He didn't pretend he was anything else. No false image. I've been a computer programmer. I never lied about what I did. You know what I mean? No false image. My ex-girlfriend, I don't know if she passes herself off as something other than a gang member to anyone other than her victims. That's what I don't know. I don't know if she lives a false image to everyone or it was just me. I'm under the I think it was just me. Okay, but I'm sure. So, anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. It's been a terrible month. I've been suicidal, to tell you the truth. I've been suicidal. I've been homicidal because I realize that I'm fucked. I'm fucked. Now that I understand what borderline is, and I've been watching myself, I realize that my personality, when I get angry, all my libidinal drive gets, it's like two different personalities. It's gone. And when I'm loving, all my aggression is gone. It's almost unheard of for me to have them both at the same time. And that explains it all of cluster Bs, does it not? They'll love you 1 minute, then they'll be fucking fighting with you or even killing you the next minute. And really what got me is that Otto Kernberg made me realize, he says, in order to heal, he says borderline is the most, basically borderline is before you get cured, he says. So I'm at the point, he said, the only way to do it is get into a relationship and get out there and get a job. He's like, it doesn't matter if it goes bad. It is going to go bad. You're a borderline. It's always going bad. It's not going to work out. But if you don't do it, you'll never be able to integrate your two selves. So that really got me depressed because then I stopped working my cans. I went broke. I have not eaten in about 3 days. I lied on the bed trying to die again from starvation. But I just woke up now and I guess I'm going to go get some food. Oh, something else that's very interesting. He described suicide. Suicide from a borderline is because they want to get rid of themselves because they can't take it anymore. I mean, they just can't deal with the diffused personality. They can't deal with their aggressive side and the way their libidinal drive gets ignored, basically. It gets starved. I mean, my libidinal side is starved of affection because my aggressive side is just too dangerous. So it's depressing. But he said, and here's explains why these guys kill their wives and their kids. He explained narcissistic suicide and suicidals. And let's not go to the antisocial. It's the same thing as a narcissist and a borderline. And by the way, the antisocial is a little bit like a borderline. Okay, let's talk about it. The narcissistic suicide is completely different than a borderline suicide. A borderline like me, when I am suicidal, it's just to obliterate myself. To escape. Do you know why a narcissist commits suicide or kills their family or everything? It's really weird, man. It's because they think they're smarter than everyone. They think, aha, I got a way out. I'm going to beat everyone at this game. They think they got me. They don't got me now. I'm just going to kill the family and kill myself. I win. That's the way they think. It makes sense when he said that. I was like, oh my God, that is disturbed. That is really immature. All I can say is that it comes down to, I definitely have a lot of immaturity, but when I'm studying narcissistic personality disorder, it's like, wow. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, I'm getting off my channel for a while. I have to write my book. I have to get myself in order, and I have to get a girlfriend and a job. I've got to try it, guys. I'll come back to the channel when I have when I have either, or when I've gotten a date, because I guess it's I guess he's right. Look, I love Otto Kernberg. I'll put links down below to these lectures. As I apologize for blowing up at you, Gray Matter, and the big fuck you. You can insult me forever. That's the way I'm used to it. You see. I was thinking about why I like the big fuck you insulting me and calling me a narcissist, whereas I got upset at Gray Matter for offering me compassion and saying they knew my parents, and I was like, well, because Gray Matter was treating me like my family, and that's the way I'm used to it, being persecuted. I'm okay with being persecuted. I'm not okay with being played and tricked with, and that's what I detected in Gray Matter. And I'll tell you something, Gray Matter. Not that it matters, but there's just no way I could ever trust anyone who knows my mother, because until she's not even after she's dead, because I don't want to hear about another perspective. God forbid I meet someone else and they tell me, oh, your mother was actually married. You know, I don't want to be traumatized anymore. I've internalized my mother and father in a way that suits me, helps me. It may not be 100% correct, but at least will get me to my next stage. I don't need it messed up again. I don't need it messed up again. I was thinking yesterday when I was hungry and starving and I have no weed and I don't feel like doing the cans anymore, my mother might have $1 million sitting in her bank. I wouldn't take a penny of it. I wouldn't take a penny of it. So I'm going to go try to get a job, get a girl, try to get my life order, because anything, any suffering, any amount of torture is paradise compared to going back to that narcissistic, lying piece of shit woman. I don't know who the fuck she is. Who is my mother? You see? I have a diffused personality. When I get angry throughout the day, it's like all of a sudden I get really angry. Hopefully I'll find someone who can deal with me, because I can't deal with myself. And I saw that from my last post, and this month is just being terrible. Just being the worst. I guess I don't know. I don't know. You know, I love this channel and I love this YouTube stuff. And I have no problem putting all my insanity out there. And that's why, guys, we'll never meet a narcissist on the internet. Well, I was listening to Otto Kernberg, and the only way we're going to find narcissists on YouTube is if they're talking about something about someone else. If they're not talking about psychology. Yeah, if they're talking about motorcycles or wars or politics, okay, but you're not going to find a narcissist on social media saying, hi, I'm a narcissist. No, they don't know they're a narcissist. They have a false image on top of it, unless they're in therapy. And putting videos was part of their therapy. Don't believe the hype. We're all borderlines. That's the bottom line. You don't talk about your psychology as a narcissist. You don't have a psychology as a narcissist. You have a false identity. Yes, I'm really glad that I watched those things. Watch them below. They're long. It's a lot. But, I mean, the guy is just... He basically says what Sam Vaknin says and what almost every one of us has been saying, but he says it really... He really describes it as something that happens to 0 to 3. And it's just that... Yeah, man. I think about my parents, sitting in my car with my parents or at dinner with my family, and I never felt like myself. It was so weird looking back at it. I would diffuse sitting there. I would be sitting there, I didn't know who I was. I couldn't act like myself. I couldn't think like myself. I didn't know what was going on. As soon as the family event was over, I popped back into me again here. Just a nightmare of a life, guys, you know? The more I think about it, the more I was like, you know what? Like, what the fuck? I did not need that shit. My stupid fucking mother couldn't find someone else. Did she have to have fucking kids for money? I would rather have not been born for. What kind of a fucking loser does that? Ugh. Anyways, there goes my persecuted side again.